Welcome to our fireside chats. I'm Ali Velour.
I'm Scott Emmer.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about what happens if you have a green card and you commit a crime and the government attempts to take your green card away.
Yeah.
Right.
So after you get a green card, the government can attempt to take your green card away and remove you from the United States for certain crimes.
But how do they do that? You have a green card, and then what kind of crime would you need to commit?
It would be an aggravated felony is possible, or it could be two lesser crimes, but that crimes that are considered involving moral turpitude. Commonly, that can include shoplifting, embezzlement, things like that.
Okay, so I just want to emphasize that aggravated felony under immigration law is defined differently than it is under criminal law. So you don't really have to kill a person for this to happen. You can do much lighter things for this to trigger this. And then what happens is once you go through the criminal court proceedings and perhaps even serve time, then they summon you to immigration court by this document, the summons document, which is called notice to appear.
Yeah. So once you get that notice to appear, you have to go to court at that point, obviously. And you can ask the judge if you qualify for this cancellation of removal. And what the cancellation of removal is, and the effect of it is if the judge decides that you qualify for it and that you meet up to their standards for it, they basically just wipe that removal proceeding off your record and you get your original green card back. You can only get this once. So if you get taken to court and you get cancellation of removal, and then you commit another crime, and you get taken to immigration court again, you can't get cancellation of removal for a second time.
Okay, so cancellation of removal, what are the requirements to qualify?
Yeah, so for an LPR cancellation of
LPR
removal,
is what?
legal permanent resident.
Green card holder.
What you have to do is you have to have 7 years of physical presence in the United States and 5 years at least of having a green card. Now, just because, it doesn't always happen where you get your green card and then you commit a crime and then they take you to immigration court the next day, right? It could happen a decade after your crime. So
let's put dates. So I'm a green card holder, and I got my green card in year 2000, right? And I'm just like minding my own business. In 2005, I commit a crime that could trigger an NTA, notice to appear, right? But it doesn't, right? It doesn't, and I tried to naturalize in 2010 and become a U.S. citizen. At that point, the government then notices that there was a crime committed. Can they issue an NTA then?
They can issue an NTA then. And for the cancellation of removal, the judge doesn't look at the fact that you didn't get placed into court until 2010. They will and they can look back at that 2005 crime. And if it qualifies to have triggered an NTA, even though it didn't, they can use that as the stop time for your cancellation.
Okay, so
stop time rule.
Stop time rule, guys. So just because you don't get summoned to court, it does not mean that you keep accumulating this time towards getting relief later, right?
Exactly.
So what's the minimum time? 5 years?
It's 5 years of permanent residency, 7 years of physical presence in the United States.
Okay, so in my little hypo, if I committed the crime in 2005, if I change that just a little bit and I commit that crime in 2003, what happens?
You wouldn't qualify for cancellation of removal for a lawful permanent resident.
So what happens to my green card?
It can be taken away if the judge finds you removable. The judge finds that it was grounds to remove the green card. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's really harsh. Both ways, really, because you commit a crime and the government is trying to remove you. There is relief available.
Other forms of relief. Yeah.
Other forms of relief available. But then it can also be very harsh because if you don't qualify for that relief, then potentially you can get deported.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? Even though you have a green card, even though you've been living here X number of years, if you don't qualify, you get deported. Wow. Yeah. So what happens is okay, fair enough. That's for people who have a green card.
Yeah.
What if you don't have a green card?
If you don't have a green card, there's a different form also called cancellation of removal of relief available. But that has some higher requirements, including 10 years in the United States, not 7 years. And it also requires that you have a U.S. citizen relative or a permanent resident relative.
What kind of relative?
Would be a spouse or a child under the age of 21 or a parent.
Okay.
And they have to suffer extreme and exceptionally unusual hardship if you were removed in order for you to qualify.
So that's if you don't have a green card.
Correct.
So if you don't have a green card, the threshold is higher
Yes.
to get that relief.
Yes.
What's the threshold if you have a green card?
For cancellation.
Cancellation removal.
It's the 5 years, green card, 7 years, inside the U.S., and you don't need a qualifying relative.
Okay.
All you have to do is show rehabilitation from your crime.
Do you need hardship?
No, not even hardship. It's just
Okay.
rehabilitation. Yeah.
When was the last time you won one of these?
About a month ago.
I think less than a month ago. I think he's being modest. Less than a month ago. And that particular client, when did he? How long had he been here for?
So he got the green card in about the year 2000.
How old was he then?
He was 6 years old.
6 years old. Okay.
He committed a crime when he was 16 in 2010. He was traveling and the government noticed the crime in about 2017. And so that's when they triggered the NTA. And that's when he was placed into proceedings.
Right. So that's really important, as far as the government not necessarily issuing the NTA the minute the crime occurs. Because if I remember correctly, this guy traveled a lot for his work. And in fact, he had exited and entered the country multiple times until the last time, which, CDP got him,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
essentially. So that happens. So if you have a green card or don't have a green card, and I mean, you shouldn't be committing crimes anyway, but
It's usually a good rule of thumb.
it's a good rule of thumb, but if you have a green card, you commit a crime, and you're placed in removal proceedings, it's not the end of the world. If you don't have a green card, you commit a crime, you're placed in removal proceedings, it's not the end of the world either. But regardless, you have to deal with it. You have to ask for relief. You have to get a green card or keep that green card somehow. What happens afterwards? Are these folks eligible to apply for citizenship?
Yes, they are.
So the crime is not counted against them.
Only if it occurred within the last 5 years, and at that point, we're getting into citizenship requirements for anyone,
Right.
regardless of when they committed the crime.
Okay, so and we'll be covering citizenship in another video. Did I leave anything out?
No, that's everything.
Okay. All right, so thanks for tuning in. Again, this is Ali Balor from Balor Carl Immigration Group in Los Angeles, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you. Boop, boop, boop.